Friends, welcome! In this video I'm going to show you how I built and installed our cabinet doors. Smooth. I'm going to do cabinet doors here, and I've elected to use to go with inset doors on the countertop side for three really good reasons. First, they're just super elegant looking, very sleek and refined and make me look sophisticated. The second is because they're significantly more difficult, and I decided to make it harder myself because this project hasn't been hard enough. And third, when I calculated the cabinet bases, their width with the countertop, I took into consideration the face frame width, but not necessarily the overlay doors. And so I don't really have a countertop angle, countertop overhang if I put in overlay doors. Therefore, I've relegated myself to inset doors. That's probably the real reason, honestly. The other side, I hadn't really, there is no countertop overhang, so I can make overlay doors on that side, and it will be a lot easier. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to watch me struggle with inset doors, and hopefully not struggle with the overlay doors, but you can kind of see the difference as we go. So that's that. So I did my very fancy math. So I measured all my rough openings and inlet doors, inset doors. I decided to give myself about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Allow some expansion if it needs to be, and then of course there were some double doors we had to add. I tried to put a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch gap in between there so they swing open a little bit better. So I did all my math, and then you have to consider, you have the rails that go across, the horizontal, and the stiles that go vertically, and then the rails will actually have a mortise that will stick into, a tenon that will stick into a mortise on the rails, and I've got a jig and some bits from my router table that will cut those, so I'll show you those in a second. So I cut all my pieces to length, and I've laid them on the table so I know kind of which they are, and now we're going to go over to the router table, and we're going to do the ends first and cut the tenons first, because I tend to get more tear out on that side. So if I cut the ends first, then I can kind of smooth it down. I'm going to cut the groove into the stiles. So of course you need a groove in the rails as well. Let's go over to the router table. So here's the bit. This cuts the top part of the mortise, and then this cuts the bottom part of the mortise, and then this over here cuts the curve. Alright, the bit that I have in the router table cuts the tenon right there, and it also cuts a little, you can't see it, this will sand off when we put it all together, but again that's kind of like the height I want it. So it cut a little tiny curve, which you may be able to see kind of on this side, right there. Give it sort of a beveled edge on the doors, and so it cuts that tenon. And I use this coping jig, which is actually awesome. It's got a handle on it, and you clamp the pieces in here. Clamp the piece in with that. Squeeze this in tight, holds it, and it's got this sort of, we call it a sacrificial piece right here, if you can see it. And this sacrificial piece provides backing for it so that the edge doesn't tear out when you go through. So it's a great little jig, and I use it to cut cut the tenons. Then we'll switch that bit, go to a different bit, and use it to cut the groove along both the stiles and the rails in order to fit a panel in there. So these are just the frames. So that's what we're going to do. This bit here we'll switch to, and this cuts cuts the mortise, and then this part actually will match the curve in the side of the door frames as well. Some of the panels are going to go inside the door wider than the stock that I have, so I have to glue some pieces up to make up for it. Okay, now I've got this raised panel bit on the router table, again, for the raised panels, and it takes off a lot of wood, so I try to run multiple passes, just kind of really shallow. I think the first time I tried this bit, I had it up kind of like its final setting, and it was like a snowstorm in here, wood chips flying everywhere, and it was a little bit too much, so we'll take it nice and slow, nice easy passes. Alright, drawer assembly time. We got all my pieces laid out, and I dry fit this first to make sure it fit, and it did. Sometimes there's some wrestling that's involved with it. Put some glue on the tenons. I should fit the tenons on first, and they should extend just a whisker past the panel. I like to have a little bit of room in it. The whole idea behind raised panels is that you have this big piece of wood, and so it fits kind of loosely in the frame. That way it can expand a little bit if it needs to with moisture. Then I kind of set this one there like that. Whole thing in. Lost that one. And because you get a little bit of play in there, oops, want to make sure you line up the frame itself, not necessarily as it is with the panel. Oh boy. Like that. Then I like to check for square measure on the diagonal. That's 22 1/4. That's 22 1/2. So this has to go out 1/8 of an inch this way. Two and 5/8. 22 5/8. Good, that's better. And then I use a brad nailer, just some 5/8 inch brads, and I put them through the tenon just to hold it in place until the glue dries. Putting the brads in the back side. they don't show through the front. And I almost always sand off. Sometimes you get those little furry things from the coping plane, and I always sand it when the glue's wet. That way the glue and the sawdust sort of fill in the little cracks and make the seam not noticeable. Alright, I found that the cabinet holes and the spacing about where you put them are fairly consistent amongst hinges and cabinets, so I just keep this old cabinet door kicking around, and I set up clamp a sort of little jig board there, line it up, so that way I know kind of the spacing, and then I usually measure, I don't know, depending on the side of it, a little more than if I divide it by 4, and I put them a little bit closer to the edge than divide each segment by 4. I don't know if that makes any sense. That seems to work for me. So let's drill out the holes for the hinges. Alright, I sanded them, sanded all the doors down, and then put like 7 coats of poly, sprayed it on, and now I'm putting the hinges on. I used to have this little spring-loaded drill bit that would center itself in the hinge holes perfectly. I don't know where it is, I can't find it, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, which isn't as good. So here are my overlay doors, and again they overlay over the face frame of the cabinet, like that. And here are the inset doors, and they finish sort of push in flush. Inset, this is just a little trash can, and they go in like that. I gotta do a little bit of adjusting here. I got a bit of a gap here, but I put a shim, like shingle down here, and set them on top of that, and then calculated where to put the interior hinges. Because I lost the footage of doing that. It's kind of dark here, sorry about that. But then that's how those hinges go in. These are soft close. Oh, fancy. So that's our cabinet door video. Get a little rushed at the end. I apologize for that. I was again trying to finish them up, I'm pretty sure I had footage of installing the inlay doors. I don't know what happened to it, but if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video a little bit more detailed on cabinet doors making. But I know I get a little rushed at the end, so appreciate you watching though. Like, subscribe, do all those things you do, and I will see you next time. Thanks.